How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Today we have a very fun video because we are going to explore some speculation with the upcoming Flesh and Blood set, Monarch. Today I'm going to share with you my custom assassin cards. We don't even know if assassin is a confirmed class in Monarch, but I was like, you know what? I think it would be cool, and I have some ideas, and so you know what, let's mess around with Photoshop and make some custom cards. And I gotta say, it was a ton of fun designing these and especially naming these cards. If you're looking for a place to check out real Flesh and Blood cards, definitely check out FabDB. They are the premier Flesh and Blood deck building and database website. I do have a link in the description down below. Highly recommended checking them out. But without further ado, let's start talking about some custom cards. So for the assassin class, I figured it would be very interesting to go more of a thief, stealthy kind of route rather than just kind of like a, you know, Assassin's Creed kind of thing, just like a throat cutter, even though those themes are pretty similar. And we also already have ninja in Flesh and Blood, and I have seen a lot of people be like, oh, ninja is already an assassin. I guess that's technically true in real life, like ninjas are assassins, but in Flesh and Blood, ninjas are more like martial artists. They have, you know, martial artists. They can do somersaults and, you know, pounding gales and all that kind of stuff. They can, you know, channel the wind. And we also have Azalea, the ranger, who is also kind of an assassin in her own right, but she uses a bow. So in order to set this assassin off, make them different from both Azalea and the ninja, I figured like a thief kind of class would be very, very cool. So I'd like to introduce you to my thief assassin, Kira Silver Rose. As you can see, for the assassin hero here, I went with a 30 starting life total because I figured, hey, they're going to be very squishy, but they're also going to be very powerful, dealing a lot of quick damage, a lot of like really hard to defend against damage, and I wanted to make use of that coin mechanic, using coppers, silver, and gold, which I think would be really, really cool. We already saw a hint of this in Crucible of War. I think this could be a really cool fit for the assassin class because assassins, you know, get paid for their deeds, you know, they're contract killers. So having them, you know, incorporate the gold mechanic, the copper, silver, and gold mechanic, I think could be really, really cool. So Kira Silver Rose here, this is the, you know, adult version of my Kira. 4 hand size, 30 starting life total, and she says whenever you destroy 1 or more copper, silver, or gold, deal 1 damage to target hero. So once again, she wants to, you know, destroy silver, gold, and copper, you know, cash it in and then deal damage to a target hero. I said target hero here because, you know, of ultimate pit fight and that kind of stuff. And I also gave her a once per turn effect. When an attack you control hits, create 1 copper token. So she generates her own copper token, but only once per turn. And I put an attack rather than an attack action card, so she can generate copper from her weapon. Speaking of the weapon, here we have Knight's Whisper, and just to let you know, I've made 9 custom cards from the assassin class, and I've kind of explored a couple different things here. Some stuff that I thought was, you know, is really cool. Not stuff that I necessarily think is going to happen, just stuff that I think is just fun to talk about, and a lot of design space here in Flesh and Blood. So Knight's Whisper is an assassin weapon, a dagger, a one-handed weapon. It says once per turn action for a single resource attack, pretty standard. It has 1 damage, also, you know, pretty standard, kind of reminding you of some Kodachis here. And similar to the Kodachi, it does have an ability to get go again if you meet the condition. And I figured, you know, what would be really cool for an assassin? Well, dealing damage. So it says, if you have dealt damage this turn, Knight's Whisper gains +1 attack and go again until end of turn. So it kind of works really well with Kira's special ability where she deals damage whenever you destroy 1 or more copper, silver, or gold. And I did put for Kira 1 or more copper, silver, or gold, so you couldn't destroy like a bunch of it and deal like 9 damage. You couldn't like destroy 9 copper and deal 9 damage. It's just whenever you destroy 1 or more, deal 1 damage. So just kind of like every instance of using them up, she only does 1 damage. So I kind of wanted to make that clear. You know, I wanted to balance my custom cards at least a little bit. And so back to Knight's Whisper. It gives Knight's Whisper that +1 and then go again. So it's a 2 attack weapon with go again if you've already dealt damage. And presumably you would have 2 of these. So you can kind of get some Kodachi style hits in, but they're a little bit more powerful than Kodachi. But you can't just pitch a card and go to town. You have to have already dealt damage. So maybe starting off your turn by destroying some copper or something like that. So there's still a little bit of setup here. And like I said, I wanted the assassin to be a kind of class that can be fast with, you know, go again effects and also really hard to defend against because, you know, it's an assassin, so Kira deals, you know, direct damage. So before we start talking about some of the other cards that I made, let's talk about her 2 specializations that I made. I went deep. I made specializations for Kira here. So the first specialization that I made is No Mercy. And this is actually the first assassin card that I made because I had this idea and I thought it'd be a really cool way to use coppers, silvers, and gold. So No Mercy is an assassin action attack. It's a Kira specialization. This would be like a Majestic or something like that. A red pitch card, 7 resources. So it's going to be a really hefty hitting attack with a defense of 3 and 12 attack. So this is your finisher, right? This is your, you know, assassination attack. This is the big finisher. And it says, you may destroy 4 coppers, 2 silvers, or 1 gold you control rather than pay No Mercy's resource cost. So very similar to Cash In. I'm not 100% on the balancing here. Maybe it's 8 coppers, 4 silvers, and 2 gold or something like that. But I just wanted to, you know, lay some, you know, groundwork of what is possible. And it says, if you've destroyed a copper, silver, or gold this turn, No Mercy gains Dominate. So if you use that ability, No Mercy gains Dominate. You know, if the assassin gets paid, they make sure the work gets done. You know, that's kind of the flavor here. And, you know, Dominate is a way already built into the game that's just really hard to defend against, and I think Assassin needs something like that. I've seen other people speculate on what it could be, like just being really fast, playing abilities like attacks at instant, which is kind of wonky for the rules, but the way I chose to go with it was with coins and Dominate and then some Go Again kind of stuff. And for balancing, I kind of tuned this very similarly to like Crippling Crush, which is, you know, a 7 cost Bravo specialization that does 11 damage, I think, off the top of my head. So I wanted to, you know, go around that, but I made it a little bit more powerful because it's an assassin attack, and, you know, assassin as a class, I started her with lower health, so just, you know, a little bit more damage, 1 more damage. And with that said, with the lower health, I figured, you know, what would be really cool is to give the assassin, especially a specialization, a way to avoid danger. So here we have the second Kira specialization, Out of Sight, Out of Mind. And like I said, I had a lot of fun coming up with all of the names here. No Mercy, here we have Out of Sight, Out of Mind. So this is a blue pitch card with a cost of 1. It's an assassin instant, so it doesn't have a defense, it doesn't have an attack. It's a Kira specialization, and it says play Out of Sight, Out of Mind only if you destroyed a copper, silver, or gold during your last turn. And then it says the next time you would be dealt damage this turn, prevent it. So it's kind of like Feign Death. And I wanted to make this very similar to Feign Death. I figured assassins have the ability to, you know, vanish, you know, in plain sight, you know, hide in the rafters, that kind of stuff, while they, you know, set up for their, you know, big kill. And I think something like this could be really, really cool. Your opponent could play around this too. So it says, you know, the next time you'd be dealt damage this turn, prevent it. So maybe they're only trying to chip in. They know you're playing Kira, they know you're playing an assassin, they just try to chip in with little damage rather than trying to, you know, do one big swing. And I really wanted to tie in the gold mechanic here, the coin mechanic, so you can only play this if you used the gold mechanic in your last turn. Once again, the balancing here isn't all there, but, you know, just kind of spitballing ideas of what could be really, really cool for an assassin class. And I think some instants that get you out of trouble could be really, really cool. Like if you play World of Warcraft, like a rogue that can vanish, that kind of thing. So the next card I want to talk about is one of my favorite cards that I made. It's called It's Nothing Personal. I love the names that I came up with. It's Nothing Personal, and then the art, man, just fits so well. So this card would be like a common card or a rare card. This would be the red pitch version. It costs 0 to play, has a defense of 2, so I gave a lot of the assassin cards a lower defense, very similar to like Ranger or something like that, and they also have a lower starting life, but like more damage, so they're like a glass cannon type of class. This is an assassin attack action with an attack of 4. It says, as an additional cost to play, It's Nothing Personal, you may destroy 2 coppers or 1 silver. If you do, It's Nothing Personal gains +1 and Go Again. So this is very similar in the veins of Scar for a Scar and Life for Life and Ravenous Rabble, what's a 0 cost attack that has the ability to gain Go Again or something very, very similar like that. So it's a 0 cost 4 damage attack baseline, which is pretty good. Or if you want to cash in some coppers or silver, you can give it +1 and then Go Again, and a 0 cost 5 damage Go Again is actually quite good. So I'm not sure about the +1 there, but I think it would synergize really well with a ability like Kira. Whenever you destroy one of your coppers, you can deal 1 damage, and it can kind of like synergize like that. Once again, the balancing might not be there, might be overtuned, but I figured 4 damage and then 3 for a yellow and 2 for a blue would be, you know, the right kind of fit here. And like I said, this is one of my favorite cards that I've made. I think it's just like perfect. Maybe tune it down, maybe 3, 2, and 1 for the attack. But yeah, I think we could see stuff like this, and that'd be really cool. I mean, maybe not for the assassin class. If they choose not to go with like a coin theme for assassin, they could always go with like some other stuff, and the coin theme could be reserved for merchant or something. But you know, this is just some kind of like you know, ideas of what you could see. Another card very similar to It's Nothing Personal is the Fan of Knives. I kind of overtuned this one. This one would be like a Majestic, for example. So there wouldn't be a yellow or a blue. It's just the red pitch. And Fan of Knives, I wanted to make it very difficult to defend against because, you know, Fan of Knives are throwing a lot of knives at you. So this one is a 2-cost, 6 attack, assassin attack action with 3 defense. And I figured I'd give the Majestic ones a little bit more defense. 2-cost, 6 attack is a pretty good baseline, like Command and Conquer, that kind of stuff. And then I gave that that ability where, as an additional cost to play Fan of Knives, you may destroy 2 coppers or 1 silver. If you do, Fan of Knives gains +2 and Dominate. Once again, just making it way more difficult to defend against. And then I also gave it the ability, if it hits, it gains Go Again, signifying like the assassin's speed or something like that. I do think like a 2-cost 8 attack with Dominate might be a little overtuned, but maybe it would be like a +1 in Dominate or something very similar to that. But you know, once again, this is kind of the space we could play in. You can adjust the numbers here or there, make it cost more, make it deal less damage, all that kind of stuff. But I think stuff like this is really fun to discuss. And I think this would be like on the higher end of the scale. You know, if It's Nothing Personal is the common or the rare, Fan of Knives would be like the Majestic version of it. You know, a big finisher, not quite as big as No Mercy, but still pretty big. So the last 3 cards I want to talk about are cards that I made that generate coins. So we already have Kira generating a copper whenever you hit with your first attack each turn. Well, I wanted to make a couple cards that, you know, go along with that. And I think some stuff like this we could actually see from Flesh and Blood. And the first one I talk about would also be a Majestic. This card is Loot the Bodies. Once again, I love the naming that I came up with here. Loot the Bodies. So this is a 1-cost, 3 attack, assassin attack action with a defense of 2. And I wanted to make the defense on this one lower because I think this card's very, very good. And it says, if Loot the Bodies hits, create 1 gold token. And I was kind of tweaking with the numbers here. I was like, you know, should it cost 1 and only deal 1 damage and make it really, really hard to hit? But if you did hit, you'd get a big reward. You'd get a gold token. And the gold tokens are much easier to cash in for big rewards because cards like No Mercy and Cash In only require 1 gold token to get that cost reduction on. But I decided on a 3 damage, 1 cost. I mean, 3 damage is pretty easy to defend against. And I figured if it was only 1 damage, then, you know, your opponent could defend with equipment very easily and block it. So I assumed this would be a good baseline. I'm not 100% sure on it, but I think something like this could be awesome. And like I said, this is like the flavor of the assassin that I kind of came up with, and I think could really fit in Flesh and Blood. They're, you know, they're not a ninja. They're not a ranger. They're more like a thief. Assassin kind of character where, you know, they gank you and then they loot your body. They loot the bodies. A very generic one that I came up with is Payday. This is very simple. This is kind of like Read the Runes. This is a 0-cost assassin action with a defense of 2, and it just says create 3 copper tokens. And this card would be like a common, where you would have the yellow version create 2 copper tokens and the blue version create 1 copper token. And I don't know if, once again, the balancing on this, I'm not sure 100% on the balancing on a card like Payday, but you can kind of see here where we could go with this. We could definitely see a card like Payday that, you know, just created 3 copper and then 2 copper and then 1 copper, or, you know, maybe just a short printed card that's only yellow pitch, like Cash In, that only creates like 2 copper or something like that. Another copper generator, once again, pulling off of themes from other classes in Flesh and Blood. This is Give 'em the Slip. So this is an assassin defense reaction with a defense of 4 and a cost of 0. So a 0-cost 4 defense defense reaction. You see this a lot in other classes. You see this in Runeblade. You see this in Ranger. 0-cost 4 defense, red pitch. Defense reactions are pretty common. And this one just says create 1 copper token. So, you know, you give them the slip. You get your loot and you give them the slip. And I think it really fits in the flavor here. This is kind of more like a thief kind of thing, but it's kind of an assassin-y thing. You don't want to be seen until you deliver the final blow, and you kind of nick stuff along the way. Anyway, those are my 9 custom assassin cards. I think this was a lot of fun to speculate, a lot of fun to just make these cards in general. I had to do some tricky stuff in Photoshop to get the the way that I wanted to do, especially cards like Kira, to get that transparent bottom part there. And I really do think the assassin class could be one of the classes that uses like the coin mechanic, because I think it, it makes sense. It's very flavorful. Or maybe they could go a completely other direction where it's like all about speed, because assassins could be very quickly or move very quickly, so they can have a lot of instants and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of design space here, and this is just kind of like the angle that I went with, tokens, gold tokens, silver and copper tokens. And I did kind of touch a little bit on another theme that I wanted to explore, but I already made 9 cards. I didn't want to make a ton more with the weapon, Knight's Whisper, where if you have dealt damage, then it gets a bonus. So I think that could tie into Assassin too. Just dealing damage matters, and which is why I put like difficult to block damage on Kira herself. Anyway, let me know what you thought of these cards. Like I said, the tuning is really far off. Some of the cards might be undertuned, some of them might be grossly overtuned, but let me know what you thought in general of the mechanics. Let me know what you think the assassin class could be, the mechanics that could come in there. Like, are they going to do more instant attacks or unblockable attacks, very similar to like a wizard or something, or maybe something else entirely? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments down below. But regardless of what you do, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Maybe check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me directly. But regardless of what you do, I just said that twice, I'd like to wish you a fantastic day, morning, evening, whatever time it is for you. I'll see you next time for some more card game content. See you later, everyone.